Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Israel Brief, proudly brought to you by Lay of the Land. If we haven't met already, I'm Rolene Marks, and I bring you the top stories from Israel and surrounds every Monday to Thursday on this platform and also on our YouTube channel, which is growing. Thank you to all our subscribers. All you have to do is click on the big red subscribe button and you will be notified every time we post a brief. But before we get into today's stories, I just want to address an issue that is sadly becoming quite prevalent in the world today, and that is media censorship on social media. Many of you will be familiar that of the last couple of weeks, individuals have been deplatformed, organizations have been deplatformed, and many people who report on political issues have been censored. And sadly, we have a suspicion that Lay of the Land and the Israel Brief may be one of those parties. Now, our aim is to bring you stories from Israel in a non-partisan way. We aim to be as balanced and non-biased as we possibly can. And the reason for this is pretty simple. Very few people get to really hear the stories that happen inside Israel that don't make it to media platforms. And this is what we endeavor to do. We also, with the Israel Brief, want to give you an idea of the top stories that make headlines in Israel and a little bit of analysis behind those top stories. We do not support any particular political party. That is a personal decision that each individual has the right to make. We also don't endorse any political parties, be they in the United States or the United Kingdom or anywhere else, but do comment on how it impacts Israel and the Jewish world. Now, we need your help. In order to get Israel's story out there, we would need you to please, as much as possible, share our content, visit our social media sites, engage with us as much as possible, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You have the right to hear the news, and we have the right as a media provider to bring you the news and to allow for a platform that allows for free speech. There is a big difference between free speech and hate speech, and if we ever breach that line, we would expect to be censored. But what we don't expect to be censored for is bringing you the news from Israel. So with that said, let's take a look at those top stories making headlines, and all eyes will be on the capital of the US, Washington, D.C., as Joe Biden is sworn in as the next president of the United States and his administration along with him. Now, we do know that one of the picks for his administration is Antony Blinken. He will be the Secretary of State, and we are all curious to see where he stands vis-a-vis Israel. Now, he has come out and spoken a little bit about the Iran deal and where the Biden administration is headed to. And he said it's their aim to look for a longer and stronger deal. And before they engage with Iran, they will speak to allies like Israel to look at the best way forward, the best solution forward. He said if Iran is prepared to conform, then so is the United States. However, we are looking at this from Israel's perspective, and many of us are saying, is this naivety on behalf of the incoming US administration? We have seen the ramifications with the Obama administration and the change with the next administration. What can we expect? Is it naivety, or is there a genuine sense that this administration can really bring Iran to heel? One thing is certain, that there are those of us in the region who will bear the brunt, who are in the crosshairs of Iran and are very, very concerned about any concessions being made to Iran. And let's take a look at our second top story, and we go to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is prevalent around the world, even though Israel is still leading in our vaccination rollout process. And it was announced earlier today that Israel will start opening up vaccinations to those 35 and older. So if you're watching this and you're 35 and old and living in Israel, go and phone your HMO immediately and book your vaccine. Also, we have news coming in that the police have arrested at least 17 from the ultra-Orthodox community who clashed when the police tried to enforce lockdown rules. And last night, a wedding was broken up in Ashkelon in the ultra-Orthodox community for flouting the lockdown laws. So it does look like there is a little bit of tension rising with the ultra-Orthodox community and law enforcement. And we really, really need people to adhere to the laws, especially as lockdown has been extended to the 31st of January. And our final story takes us back to the United States and Congresswoman Rashida Talib. She is very, very vocal when it comes to issues surrounding Israel. Well, she has had quite a lot to say about Israel's vaccination rollout program. In fact, she accused Israel of being a racist state, saying that her Palestinian grandmother has been unable to receive a vaccine because she's Palestinian. Well, we just want to put the record very, very straight. Israel is vaccinating all Israeli citizens, including Arab citizens. Israel is not responsible for vaccinating Palestinians. As per the Oslo Accords, the Palestinians requested and got autonomy over their health care, which includes the responsibility of vaccines. Israel has been assisting Palestinians since the beginning of the pandemic in getting PPE, in getting training, and getting equipment. And a Palestinian health official said just last month that they neither require or need the help of Israel. Israel is not in violation of the Geneva Convention or of the Oslo Accords, but if we do roll out vaccinations in the territories, we will be accused of encroaching on Palestinian health care autonomy, and this we don't want to do either. Israel is also on the record saying if help is requested, we will help, but our primary responsibility is to our citizens. We have said this numerous times on the Israel Brief, and there is an article up on our website that deals with this very issue. So those are the top stories making headlines in Israel today. We're all going to be watching the inauguration as it unfolds in Washington in several moments. But if you are looking for original content to read, check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. There is a letter to the editor of the Daily Mail that I have written in response to accusations from the Palestinian foreign minister accusing us of racism. It's also on our Facebook page. Now, I know many of you are saying you are not seeing our content on Facebook. Please check us out at Lottel's site. If you haven't already joined our community by giving us a like or a follow, please do so and share our content. This is one way where we fight censorship. And don't forget that we have a YouTube channel at the Israel Brief, and we know many of you have already clicked on the big red subscribe button. Thank you so much. And we're on Twitter as well, and if you would like to engage with us or follow us, we are on @LayOfTheLand with the digit 5. That's @LayOfTheLand with the digit 5. So from a very, very feisty me on a cold and wet Wednesday here in Israel, I'd just like to thank all of you who keep on supporting us, who keep on sharing our content, who keep on subscribing. Thank you so much. This really, really helps. You deserve to hear the truth. You deserve a free and fair media. Until tomorrow, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, and we'll chat again tomorrow.